So I think we're still waiting for Vice Chairperson Keene, and Commissioner McIntyre is not going to make it. She emailed earlier. So.
Well, Victoria, next time I already threw all my cuttings out. And I wish I would have known. I would have kept some.
All right, we can talk gardens at some point, Dennis.
Yeah,
Kelly, are we going to? Are you going to run the meeting then? I mean, as far as take Phil's spot.
Yes.
You're going to give us a director's report.
Just prompt me with what you need.
And
also, Laura Christensen is going to be logging on. She's going to be doing the swearing in.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, she should be here soon.
Yeah, that's one of the first items of business is the administration of the oath. So we want to make sure that Laura's on.
Okay, let me shoot her a quick text and just make sure she's not having any difficulties.
We need our digital flag.
Yeah. Oh, and that has physical one.
Oh,
Hey,
yes.
there you go. Beautiful.
I appreciated the digital one last time too, for those who don't have it immediately handy. I just open up my window and I see 4, so that's fine.
I have an Italian flag somewhere.
I don't think we'll be playing Pledge of Allegiance to that one. Victoria, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
Okay, when we get there.
Let me know when we're ready.
Oh, looks like everybody else is standing. I got to call a meeting to order first, guys. And we're waiting for Laura. So you can sit back down.
She's just having a couple technical difficulties. So
should we start then?
We can go up to that point and then we'll hopefully
okay.
Get the twist out of my knickers.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the regular planning commission meeting for this Tuesday, April 6th. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance and we'll have Victoria Franza lead us.
How's that work?
Okay. Thank you. That works perfectly. Is that Jason?
Yep.
All right.
That's awesome.
If everybody could mute, otherwise it's going to sound really bad.
Okay, if you could pin it on Commissioner Jason's screen, that would be great. All right, everyone put their hand over their right heart. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I almost put my hand over my left heart.
I actually found out people do have their hearts sometimes on the other side.
No way.
Thank you, everybody. Annette, can we get a roll call?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Carranza?
Here.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner McIntyre is an excused absence tonight. Vice Chairperson Keene?
Here.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Here.
So we have 6 present and 1 absent. I'm sorry, 5. 5 present, 1 absent. We're going to have a new one soon.
A new one.
Can I get an approval of the motion to approve the agenda, please? A second.
A motion.
Okay, got a motion. Anybody? Second?
I'll make a second motion.
Okay, Dennis. Okay. Annette. You're on mute, Annette.
Sorry, Commissioner
go.
Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Carranza?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Keene?
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll be moving into public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter not on this agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record before making your presentation. The commission may take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Kelly or John, do we have anybody online?
It looks like we have one person calling in, and I'll just remind them to raise their hand if they want to talk.
Remind them how to do that.
You press *9, right, Kelly?
You can press *9, I believe, if you're on the phone, or if you're on the webinar, you can use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, I don't see any raised hands, so we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff and will be approved by one motion if no member of the commission or public wishes to comment or ask questions. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to ask any questions, make any comments? Or from the commission? Annette did tell me that we are doing the reapprove the draft minutes of March 2nd because there was a date.
Date typo.
Oh,
Another mistake.
So if there's no questions, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll approve it.
Okay, Victoria, and a second.
A second.
Jason, second. Okay, Matt, can we get a roll call on that?
Yes, Commissioner Carranza, Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson King,
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
perfect. Well, it looks like Laura's on, so we're going to do now the administration of the oath of office to our brand new planning commissioner, Randy Hughes, who's online right now. So Laura, I'll turn some time over to you.
Thanks. Hi, Randy. Okay, all I need you to do is raise your right hand for me. Okay, and then you're going to repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Randy Hughes,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the position
discharge the duties of the position
for which I am about to enter.
for which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations and welcome.
Bravissimo.
Thank you.
Randy, we're happy to have you on the planning commission. Hopefully we can meet in person again soon.
Yes, welcome, Randy.
Thank you.
Well, now that we have our new commissioner added, we're gonna have to do a new roll call, right, Annette?
Yes. Okay, here we go. Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Carranza,
Present.
Commissioner Hughes,
Here.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson King,
Here.
and Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Here,
Thank you, all present.
thank you very much. Glad to see everybody today. We're gonna be having our community development staff report by Kelly for the 2020 annual housing and general plan implementation report. So we're gonna go ahead and turn the time over to Kelly, and hopefully she doesn't have any technical difficulties.
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
There you are.
Hey.
It works.
It does. I've lost view of my mouse. So
No
I'm
good deed goes unpunished.
play it as a slideshow. Oh, there we go. Okay. Great. So this is our annual general plan and housing element progress report for the year 2020. The state does require that we give them an annual update of our general plan program implementation and our housing numbers in terms of construction and projects approved to make sure that we're heading towards our RENA and housing goals. So what they do is monitor general plan implementation, and then they're especially focused on housing. We do a very large spreadsheet that I think you got a portion of as part of your packet that tracks all of our housing development in the city. So we do give them an overview of activities, which we'll give you tonight as well. And then we do submit the report that was attached to your staff report to the State Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research for their review. In terms of 2020, we are seeing above average development, which we've seen as a trend for the last 4 or 5 years. In 2019, we processed about 1,600 building permits and 77 planning projects. In 2020, even through COVID times, we saw about 1,400 building permit applications and we saw 78 planning applications. So even with COVID, things don't seem to be slowing down. I think people see that once we open up, there will be a need for new projects and development continues to be steady. In terms of our planning application activity, you can see we do a lot of use permits and a lot of tentative maps still. There's a lot of projects going through preliminary review, which won't ever see planning commission and council to a certain degree, but help streamline our building permit process for commercial and multifamily developments. And then we have, of course, our tree removal permits and our development plans. In terms of building permits, what we see a lot of are over-the-counter permits. We also see a lot of residential development permits. Residential development permits generally take less time to go through our review process. And we do still have a lot of vacant properties out there and a lot of approved projects that are coming to fruition on the construction side. So there's a lot of residential development, although we are seeing an uptick in some commercial development as well. So just an overview of a couple of the projects that are out there that are still under construction in 2020 that we're really excited to see. The first one, of course, being La Plaza, which is right across from our city hall, and we get to watch their construction progress all day long. This will be a great project. They're almost complete with the small building, which is the one here, sort of on the corner of our plaza in El Camino Real, and they have, I believe, some tenants signed on. So we're looking forward to finaling that permit soon and seeing some activity in terms of uses downstairs to help liven our downtown. Another project that's nearing completion is the Cerro Robles development, which is on the south end of town by Halcon and Viejo Camino. This was 17 custom-ish homes, and that project is turning out really nicely. If you haven't driven through it, I recommend that you do. It was approved, I think, in 2015 or so, and it is almost complete at this time. Another commercial project downtown that we're excited about is the Beer Garden, which is constructed out of shipping containers. They are nearing completion and opening. We have permits in for their signs now and are very excited. We have Ancient Owl Brewery, Negranti Creamery is coming in, and a small retail hat shop is coming in along El Camino. So that should be a really great place to start hanging out in the summer once we're allowed to do that again. We also did a downtown retrofit project. So this was an unreinforced masonry building. If you drive by it today, you'll notice the difference. They restored the residential unit on the upper floor, and then they converted the bottom floor into a really great retail space with some exposed brick. And we do believe that a tenant is coming into that space shortly. So that's a great project. The next project is the Human Bean along El Camino Real. Hopefully you've all been there to get your coffee. It seems to be a very popular place, opens early for contractors, and they've been doing good business. And then on El Camino Real, but right by the post office, is a new office building that will sort of add some life to what was a vacant lot and sat vacant for a long time. So we're excited about that as well. In terms of projects moving forward into 2021, we have a people self-help project on the north end of town that will help us meet our RENA numbers for low and very low income housing. And then we have the El Camino Real townhomes and apartments at 10850 El Camino Real. That one has started grading, and they are hoping to pull building permits soon. We also have a great new mixed use project called The Block downtown on Traffic Way. That will be 11 residential units and a retail space along Traffic Way on the ground level. And then the Principal Mixed Use Project, which has been around for 10 or 12, maybe 15 years, is finally ready to pull their permit. So that's at the corner of Principal and El Camino Real. The Quickie Car Wash was part of that project, and then they will hopefully be pulling their residential permit sometime soon. It's mostly attached townhomes and a couple live work units. Del Rio Ranch, that is on the site of the former Walmart property, and they were approved to move forward with their concept by the city council a couple meetings ago. That's going to be an exciting project that combines some tourist uses with some entertainment uses and some commercial uses on the entire former Walmart property. So we're really excited to see how that turns out from the new owner. And then the Barrel Creek development, which is on the west side of the freeway at Del Rio. They will be submitting application in the next couple of weeks. They have a revised plan from their preliminary concept that was approved by the city council to move forward. And so we're excited to see what comes with that as well. So in terms of housing analysis, as I said, we do monitor our progress towards meeting the city's RHNA numbers, and that's the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, which provides targets for the production of housing in all income categories. So not only low, very low and moderate, but also market rate housing as well. Our fifth RHNA cycle did come to an end in 2019. So we're kind of starting a new cycle. Our housing element got approved late last year. And so all the units constructed in 2020 will count toward that new sixth cycle. And we do have a couple units that were constructed in 2020 that will count towards both low and moderate income numbers. And then the city basically provides development opportunities through zoning, reducing barriers to housing production and density. We did look at these issues when we did our housing element update. The city can meet the next cycle RHNA numbers with the zoning that we have in place today, but we are also nearing build out. And so the city will be working on a comprehensive general plan update starting this year to look at additional development opportunity areas. So for the sixth cycle RHNA, this chart at the top of the screen shows how many units we are required to provide opportunity for. We don't have to build these number of units, but we do have to provide opportunities to allow for this number of units with as little barrier as possible to development. In 2020 and this current housing element cycle, the state did say that ADUs can count towards low income and moderate income units. We did participate in a region-wide study on ADUs, and it was found that rents for accessory dwelling units do fall either within the moderate or low income category. So we are able to count ADUs towards our RHNA numbers. We also have the Block downtown mixed use development that was approved. That will offer one deed restricted low income unit as part of the state density bonus program. And then we have the microhomes development that's currently under construction by the San Jacinto Center. And they are providing 3 deed restricted moderate income units. And then their additional units are considered affordable by design. So just to conclude, our housing element update is now complete, and we are working on new programs and new numbers that will be part of our analysis next year. We're required to accommodate through zoning 843 units over the 8-year period. We believe that based on our previous housing production, we can achieve those numbers. We do have a couple of constraints that we'll be looking at with our comprehensive general plan update, such as the availability of land. We don't have a lot of areas to expand in our city. We also have some issues with sewer capacity and expansion. Our sewer wastewater treatment plant will need upgrading in the next few years to accommodate additional development. And then of course we have topography in Atascadero, which definitely limits, just from a practical perspective, the density that can be achieved on certain sites. So our general plan update is scheduled to begin. I think we're hoping to kick that off in the next few weeks with an RFP, and then hopefully we will start our public outreach process in the summer of this year. And we'll be looking not only at housing development sites, but opportunities for commercial development and some new guidance in terms of design standards for mixed use development, as well as multifamily and commercial development. So with that, staff's happy to take any questions that you might have. And if the person who is in the audience would like to speak, I know, Jeff, you'll open it up for public comment once we go through commissioner questions.
Yeah, Dennis.
Yes, thank you very much, Kelly. Is the city going to be re-evaluating their development impact fee program, or are they doing that at this time?
Yes, we have contracted with a consultant to look at our development impact fees. We actually scheduled to do that last year. But then as COVID hit, it became a little bit difficult to gather around and do that. And some of our priorities were sort of refocused. So we are still working with that consultant. We've gotten them some new numbers. And so we do hope that that moves forward shortly.
Are we in the last AB, was it 1800 study, 1600 study? I can't remember. We had pretty much one designation of how, well, types of housing. We, it was for a 0 to half acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, above 3 acres. And if you fell within one of those categories, those were the fees that you had to pay. Are we considering breaking down now that we have tiny homes and other things? Are we going to be entering in other categories to make it maybe better for those projects to succeed versus paying, $16,000, $17,000 because they are, within the half acre category, let's say.
Yeah. So what the fee consultant is charged with is determining the actual impact of a new unit on city services and on city infrastructure. So what most fee consultants find is that there is not a huge difference in impact based on the size of the unit. There's a lot of 2-person families that live in large houses. There's a lot of, more person families that live in smaller units. But however, the state is basically guiding us towards adopting development impact fees that are on a sliding scale based on the size of the unit. And so that will be a city council consideration to look at adopting a strategy and different categories that aligns with those state goals.
Mm-hmm.
Impacts are shown to be similar in the Nexus study.
Well, that's very good to hear. And ADUs are exempt from the development impact fees?
Sure. Accessory dwelling units that are less than 750 square feet by state law are exempt from development impact fees. Accessory dwelling units that are 750 square feet up to the maximum of 1,200 are required to be charged a proportional fee. And so the city does have a policy on what that proportional fee is. And so they are charged a lesser fee than a full-size single-family residence.
Good news. Last question, I was kind of intrigued about the Del Rio Ranch project. I had not followed it really closely. Then the EIR that was done for the Walmart project was either had to be revised because of the traffic circulation splits that were in that. Is that what happened to get to the Del Rio project?
Sure. So the Del Rio Ranch project is a brand new submittal of a concept that went to council just a few weeks ago. What we did prior to that was we amended the specific plan to take out some very specific language related to development of that site with a Walmart. So when we amended the specific plan, we wanted to look at different traffic mitigation if there's not a large scale retailer on that site. And then we wanted to broaden the use, the allowed list of uses so that we could have some greater flexibility in projects that came into those areas. The Del Rio Ranch submittal is a little bit outside of that amendment that we did for the specific plan in terms of their mix of uses. It's not outside by much. So what they will need to do with their application is submit a revised traffic analysis that shows us how that fits into the amendments that we did. And if it doesn't fit into those amendments, then they'll have to provide some additional recommendations or mitigation measures to accommodate any additional traffic they might have above what was anticipated.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions from the planning commission? Victoria?
Yeah, thanks Kelly for the report. I kept hearing a lot about mixed use projects. And so I was looking at the pie chart in our packet for the 2020 building division projects. And it showed a little sliver for mixed use permits. And I just was wondering, in relation to that, I also saw on the annual element progress report for the housing element stuff, it says the city has met its projected unit goal for mixed use development. So I just wondered if you could speak to that.
Sure. So we are definitely seeing more mixed use permits as we continue into the future. One of the issues that we saw in our previous reporting system is we didn't used to break out mixed use permits from other types of permits. They were kind of put into the residential or the commercial category. So in 2018, when we redid our system, we actually do have a category called mixed use permits now. But some of what's under construction is still under our old categorization system. We are seeing more mixed use in the grand scheme of permits. There's definitely less mixed use permits than there are residential and over the counter permits, just by the sheer volume of those that we see. So in our housing element, the programs that can relate to development of units have sort of a unit count, a goal that we hope to achieve. So in terms of rehab units or in terms of mixed use units, in terms of, residential development, it basically gives us a number to shoot for, a goal. And so the goal in our previous housing element was fairly low with mixed use projects. And so basically that statement is that we sort of met that goal that was set in that previous housing element for how many units we would achieve through mixed use development.
Would you say that it's the city's strategy to increase or to keep it at the same, like we met our goal, so we're not trying to strive for more mixed use? Or
I think the city is definitely, trying to strive for more mixed use, especially vertical mixed use projects where there's commercial on the ground floor and residential above. We see that as a key component to sort of vibrancy and life downtown. And we are seeing a lot more interest in those style of developments. I think with our general plan update, we'll also be looking for opportunity sites outside of downtown that would be appropriate for mixed use development and would help bring some vibrancy to some additional commercial nodes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great to hear. And my only other thing on looking at these pie charts too is the tree removal permits. That is a large part of the pie. And I just, I'm a tree person for sure, but I keep thinking when I'm downtown, I know that we were expecting from, I think it was Nick and Phil were working on like a tree downtown plan, and we're still kind of waiting on that. And I just keep thinking about like the mitigation strategies that right now exist for people wanting to remove trees. They're basically paying a fee, right? Or planting on their property. And I would just be interested to see if there's any funding that could be allocated to specifically downtown tree enhancement. It seems like that's something that we are still lagging on, and wondered if you could speak to.
Sure, I think that's great to bring up. Our tree removal permits, we have a lot of properties that are coated in trees. And so if you remove one tree or you remove 10 trees, you get a tree removal permit. And we did revise our process recently to streamline it a little bit more. They used to all come to Planning Commission for the most part. And now there's sort of a staff level approval, but the sites are posted so that the neighbors can more easily understand what's going on and bring up any concerns that they have. In terms of using our mitigation fund for downtown trees, when our mitigation fund was approved, the original resolution had certain findings and requirements that the tree mitigation fund only be used for native tree restoration and native habitat restoration. And so currently we cannot use that fund for street trees and our urban forest if they're not native trees. But we are continuing to explore what our funding options might be and if that policy needs to be revisited at all to meet our current goals.
Yeah, I guess that would be my piggyback question is what would it take for a commissioner to suggest that be amended and look at agendizing that?
Yeah, so I think it's a city council resolution and policy about the fund. And I know that Anta was very involved in that fund when it originally went through. So there
I'm
was,
sure, yeah.
some outreach to Alps, about what that would mean for native tree restoration and our strategy in general.
Yeah, there's an opportunity cost there. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, Dennis.
I'd like to follow up on the question about trees. Are single-family residences still exempt from permits for removing trees, except for those maybe associated with adding on to homes or to building a home?
Yes, so if you have no open or are not seeking any permits from the city and you're on a single family residential property, you do not need a tree removal permit to remove a native tree.
And have we, as a community, kind of sharpened up our tree mitigation system? I mean, one of the things that I notice a lot, especially with commercial projects that have conditional use permits, the landscaping that they have and the trees that they plant with the conditional use permits, they die and they go away and they're not replanted and not replaced. So are we now in making that system better in the sense that if a tree goes away and dies, then we chase them and say, you have a conditional use permit and says you need to plant this. Is that being followed up on in any way?
Yeah, so our first step in that process is we have some revised conditions of approval that go on all new conditional use permits that relate to ongoing maintenance of landscaping and allowing trees to grow in their normal growth pattern. What we see a lot in commercial development is the owner's not even aware, but the landscaper will come through and use a growth inhibitor on the trees. And then those parking lot shade trees don't do much to provide shade at that point. So we do have new conditions of approval on current and future moving forward conditional use permits. The street tree plan that Victoria was mentioning is sort of a phase A of a more holistic citywide tree ordinance that does relate to tree plantings and commercial on both private and in public property in terms of street trees. And so phase 2, after we complete the downtown street tree plan, which is our most needed at the moment, is to update our ordinance with tree standards that very much follow our new conditions of approval related to maintenance of trees and allowing trees to grow in their normal growth habit. And we do hope that when we adopt that into an ordinance, there will be a level of expectation that will be easier to follow and understand.
Yeah, with the emphasis though on native trees, I mean, obviously where we live, native trees mostly are deciduous. That then presents, it's kind of a double-edged sword in the sense that leaves fall on the ground and get into the drainage system. And I see a lot of public works guys during fall time to December, let's say, out there cleaning out those gutters so those drains don't plug up when it rains. So there's kind of a balance for me that we need to look at. It's nice to have focus on native trees, but then again, we also then kind of increase our engineering budget for us to clean the streets, keep them functional.
Yeah, we do have a street tree list currently that we worked on with our Public Works Department. And basically what we found is no tree is a good tree to put near a street if they have it their way. But they do also understand the economic benefits of street trees and shade and the visual benefits. So we did develop a street tree list. There are different tree species for trees that are planted like in the sidewalk downtown. Trees that might be in a setback parkway has some additional options. So we very closely looked at that and came down with a pretty narrow list for trees near the right of way. Some are native, some are not. But we are hoping to sort of find that balance and make the best situation possible from a visual and economic benefit standpoint for our commercial areas.
That's good news. Thank you.
Lori,
So I know that you mentioned that the city council and the general plan is going to look at zoning and density. But I was curious because I can't remember the Affordable by Design, the one by the San Jacinto Center. Are they, when they sell those houses, are they on tiny plots of land or are they airspace?
That particular project are on tiny plots of land.
Okay.
You see more and more developers asking for the actual land subdivision because it's easier to finance. And so part of our SB2 grant funding for housing production and development, we will be asking a consultant to develop small lot development standards that will allow for an easier process for those types of projects while still having some safeguards in terms of design incorporated into them.
Great. Yeah, because there's some plots of land I think that are close to downtown that would be great for residential development, but I know that not everyone's interested in just airspace condos. So I look forward to seeing what we're doing with that.
any other planning commission comments?
I just want to say some great comments. You covered pretty much every question that I could have possibly thought of. Thank you, Dennis, and the Tories. I do want to say that I love the term urban forest. So whatever we can do to enhance downtown and just make it as wonderful as it is, I approve that. I agree with that. I just am concerned with the cost per tree. Because that all goes
Yeah,
on to the state.
we definitely are concerned with that as well. And part of the downtown strategy was to fund removal of some of those dead trees and then replanting so that we could accurately get a per tree cost, so that we know what we're asking applicants to do or asking applicants to pay us to do. The removal went surprisingly smoothly. Those roots, from those old trees that were not irrigated did not go very far. And they were really easily able to root out those and prep the ground for a new tree to go in. And then we're also looking at, and I think there's one tree downtown in front of that rehab project where we've used it so far, a flexible sort of epoxied porous pavement type thing that you mix up and you put in. It meets ADA accessibility. You don't have to buy an expensive metal grate and continue to open the widening as the tree grows. You can just sort of, hack around it as the tree grows and chip it out. And it allows for a lot more flexibility and then easier repairs if there is a root issue. So we're constantly looking at making that easier because we do see it as an important part of downtown.
Yeah, trees are fun, but they're difficult to manage. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've designed a lot of projects and had to take out a lot of trees. And if you don't choose the right one, it can ruin your sidewalks and the road and everything. So
Quickly.
okay, any other comments from the planning commission? Thank you, Kelly, for your great presentation. We'll open it up to the public, see if there's any public comments.
And I'll just remind anybody that's in the public to use the raise hand function if they want to speak. And if they're on the phone, I think it's *9.
Doesn't look like anyone is raising their hands.
Does not look like anyone from the public wants to speak.
Okay, well, if that is the case, we don't have any public hearings. Anybody have any reports from the commission you'd like to make? Okay. Why don't we get into our director's report? Kelly, are you going to give that as well?
I certainly can. I think that we have a couple items coming up on the April 20th meeting. Some of them are big. I think we're trying to limit it to 2 so that we can get through the meeting. We do have the new mini storage proposal for the Viejo Camino El Camino Real site coming back. It's a slightly revised site than what came through before. And that has already been through DRC. And so we are seeing that back on the 20th. And John can chime in if he wants to, but I believe we are introducing amendments to our cannabis ordinance to allow for office locations that do mobile deliveries. John, if there's anything additional to that, feel free to chime in.
That about sums it up. It's a pretty small, minor change for the cannabis uses.
Well, it'll be interesting to
That's
see.
all
our
we
next-
have going on, unless anybody has questions about anything they've seen around town.
Well, I was wondering about the zoning amendment piece. It was very vague. For upcoming on April 20th.
Yeah, so we were going to bring forth our sort of annual zoning ordinance update. The council asked us to prioritize a couple zoning ordinance amendments, some of them related to our housing elements, some of them just cleanup items. I don't think that's fleshed out enough for us to bring on the 20th yet, so we'll probably see that the meeting after. But those are just a couple amendments that relate to our housing element and then cleaning up some vague language that we seem to get stuck on sometimes.
For those of you that were not involved in the mini storage, which is most of you, it's quite contentious and it'll probably be a long meeting.
That was
Great,
my
well-
very first planning commission meeting and it went for 4 hours. So it was a good time.
We will take regular breaks if needed, but there will be some neighbor comment and the virtual format will be interesting. We are including neighbor comment letters in your packet just in case people have technical difficulties or are not able to log on.
Yeah, I've seen one of the neighbor letters already. Thank you, Kelly.
You're
Well,
quite welcome.
Before we end, maybe we can get an introduction from Randy's, our new guy, so he can tell us a little bit about himself.
Oh, wow.
You're on the
So,
spot.
well, my name's Randy. I work for utilities. I got the option to pursue the planning commission, which I am very thankful for. I've done a lot of hands-on work with the public. So I've worked for a utility company for, wow, time flies, about 13, 14 years now at this point. So I've dealt with all sorts of aspects from CPUC mandates as far as compliance, DOT things, to managing facilities, doing emergency work. So like when we got the 8,000 gallons of water in the natural gas mains, I was one of the first people on site to try to deal with that. Those were fun. Seemed like 100-hour work weeks pretty much. So I've lived in Atascadero since 2013. So I've been a property owner here for a while. And I really love Atascadero. When I was looking for a home to buy, I looked at all the towns, and all the reasons I bought here were all the things that were in our general plan, like the space to, having your elbow space and all that, all the things that were prioritized. And I was like, man, I really like Atascadero for this. So I settled here, I got roots here, and I wanted to really help this place out. And in the last year with COVID hitting, right now my position, I specialize in dealing with restaurants and commercial industries. And I saw all sorts of multiple issues kind of happening. So one thing I can say that Atascadero kind of did really well was we worked with a lot of businesses. I saw other jurisdictions where someone would need to do an addendum on a project and they wouldn't hear for 3 months. And then I saw areas in Atascadero where we gave conditional use permits where, okay, you can't gather, but we understand, you're producing goods. So you can produce and you can use the back part of your building. And that was the local business here. And when I saw the way that our culture worked around that, it was something when I was made aware that it was available, I was like, I'd really like to kind of encourage that. It just seems like our population here, we have a really good way of coming together and kind of having a really good balance. So it was just something that I have a really big background. I take nighttime walk classes. I still pursue my education, and I'm one of those people. I'm always like trying to master a million different crafts at once, and I'll finish them all at once. So,
Well,
any
welcome.
questions for me?
Well, nice to have you with us, Randy.
Yes, very nice to have you with us.
I'm
Okay. If there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and adjourn to April 20th and pack your lunch. Or your dinner.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. We'll
Bye,
you
see you in a
couple
couple weeks.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Everyone.
Bye, Randy.